Welcome to another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. Today we're on episode 9, Mastering Your Minutes, Time Management, Productivity for Everyday Leaders. You had to know that at some point I would manage to do a solo episode specifically on how I spend my time. But that's not just because I love time management or priority management or productivity, whatever you want to call it, whatever resonates with you. It's also because this is the most common challenge that I hear from leaders everywhere. When I sit down one-on-one with my coaching clients, one of the first things that always come up, I either hear something about time management, productivity, not able to fit it all into a day, or I hear something about managing their people. Those are the two things that I hear. So I wanted to start today by just explaining kind of what led me to being a little bit obsessed with being intentional with my time. And then we'll dig into what I hear is the most common challenges that come up when it comes to managing our time and any specific strategies that have worked for me over the years that I've shared with my clients and seem to work for many of them as well, and the benefits of applying those. I actually used to watch my father with his yellow legal pad sit down and make lists every single day. Both mom and dad would have their lists. They were organized. They would have, I always made fun of them and felt they should have a list of the lists so they could keep track of them all. But that's what they did each day was they sat down with this yellow legal pad and discussed together what would be achieved. Now, keep in mind, my parents were small business owners, so they worked together. They ran what was called basic shelter, so built houses for a living. And so I kind of grew up around that entrepreneurial mindset. But I got to see the way that they worked together and kind of strategized around where they needed to spend their time throughout the day. And my dad has always told me that there are only 24 hours in a day and you have to use them wisely. But that's what's guaranteed to us. We know there are 24 hours, no more, no less, every single day. And to me, that makes this so simple to plan out my day because it's just a math problem. So when I was a teacher, I was a math teacher. I have always loved math. I think it's because there typically is a right and wrong answer. I loved seeing the different ways we could all arrive at the same answer, but I love when there's a right answer. And when it comes to managing time, I was always able to see that if we sat down and we looked at the tasks on the list and the amount of time each would take, if you add up the time, either it would be less than the 24 hours in the day or it would be greater than. So entering into the day, we already know that we don't have reasonable expectations of ourselves. And so I just have always wanted to fit as much as I can into a day and make it the most impactful. And I think that I have some strategies that have worked really well for me that I've learned over the years, some of them from my family, some of them from training, some of them I've just kind of come up with on my own. And I've put them together, and I love the system. The Full Focus Planner system really helped me. I think it's been about 6 to 7 years now that I've been using that system, and it really allowed me to put so many of these concepts together in one place. So if you are someone that feels as if managing your time is a challenge for you, hopefully throughout this episode, you're able to find just one strategy that maybe you've never tried before that you can implement, at least give it a shot for a week or so and see if it makes a difference. So I actually created a list, imagine that, of some of the greatest challenges that I hear from my clients when it comes to time. The first one on my list is that overwhelming to-do list. So for example, I shared with you the yellow legal pad is not a small one, and I watched my parents fill it up completely every day. And whatever didn't get finished, I would watch them rewrite the list and carry it over to a future day. But A lot of people feel swamped by this endless list of tasks, and you just feel like as soon as I do something on the list, now something else is added onto the list. I'm never making progress. There's always something else being added. So one of the things that I always think about is where do my strengths lie? And yes, I am a solopreneur. So obviously I wear a lot of hats, and some of the folks listening to this episode might also be an entrepreneur and not have a whole team of people that can help you with all the tasks. Now, I am extremely blessed to have Erica support me part-time and is able to take on some of those tasks that I had on my plate for so long, and I just felt like they were preventing me from spending time in my area of expertise where I could really support people most, do the things I enjoy most. Now, believe me, I actually do like administrative tasks. I think it's fun. I enjoy entering data into a spreadsheet, writing formulas, all of those things that some people think are boring, I think are fun and exciting, but I also know that I can be a lot more impactful if I'm working with someone, whether it's an individual, it's a team, it's an organization. I know that that's where I can have impact, and that's the most fulfilling for me as well. So I had to give up some of those tasks. So one of the things that I think about when I look at any task on my list is, am I the person that should be doing that? Is there someone else that can take that off of my plate for me? Those of you that try to schedule with me know that Erica handles the majority of scheduling at this point, and that has been very helpful to take that off of my plate. Now, it doesn't take her that long to do it. Yes, it adds up over time, but she's very fast with it. And it is just a huge relief for me that she can see my schedule, know exactly where I have boundaries set, and we'll talk about boundaries in a few minutes, but where I have boundaries set, where I'm willing to give a little and squeeze something in, and where I have to hold those boundaries strong, and she helps me with that. But just thinking about where are your strengths, and if it still has to be on your plate, even though it's not a strength, you don't have anyone else to give it to, it falls on you, then you have to think about where you're putting it in your day. So for example, for me, I know I'm my best in the morning. I feel like I'm at my best before a lot of people get out of bed in the morning. It's when I feel like I'm the most alert, I can absorb the most information, I think clearly. I think that I am best first thing in the morning. Knowing this about myself, I front load my day, usually with as many clients as I can in the morning, and know that in the afternoon is when my brain is fried. I'm not at my best. I actually have a consistent wall that I hit at 3 p.m. every day. I don't have to have a clock around me, and I can feel it. And I look and it's like, oh, it's 2:58. Imagine that. It just hit me. So I know that about myself. So if I'm doing a task that either I don't really enjoy or I'm not really good at, am I going to put it at a time where I'm already fried and I just don't have the energy or want to put the effort into it? No, I want to put the things that aren't in my zone of genius, as some might call it. I want to put those at a time where I'm at my best and I can give it my full focused energy, and save the things that are just menial tasks that don't require a lot of thought or a lot of expertise for those times when I'm not at my best. So really think about the flow of your energy throughout the day when you think are thinking the most clearly. So metacognition, thinking about your thinking. When are you thinking the most clearly? How does your body react after you eat a meal? Do you get a sudden burst of energy, or are you like me? Do you actually feel like you take a nosedive for a little bit before you power back up? Knowing those things about yourself helps you to decide, okay, if this is not something I can delegate, where should I put it in my day? So if you are overwhelmed by the endless list of tasks, just think about, do they all have to be done by you? And if they do, be intentional about where you put them in your day. The other thing that I think about is not trying to fit it all into a day. So I mentioned that, you fill up a yellow legal pad. Unless they're teeny tiny tasks, there's probably not a very good chance that you're going to fit them all into a day. But if you have a list and you go through and you are able to assign time to the task, you'll know whether it fits or not. But I use a big 3 system. And that's actually, it's a part of my full focus planner system too, where you identify a daily big 3. And all this means is rather than being overwhelmed by the whole list of things that you have to do, you are identifying the 3 most impactful tasks that you could complete that day. Those are going to be the 3 things that push you forward towards your overarching goals. Maybe those things are just urgent, so you have to get them done. You're approaching the deadline quickly and you have to knock them out. Or it's something that's going to be really impactful. So, as a business owner, I have to think about what's going to drive the growth of my business forward. I can't get completely sucked into the day-to-day. I have to also be forward thinking and insert some of those tasks into my big 3. Thinking about identifying those 3 and why that works for me. I truly used to get overwhelmed by the number of things on my list, and I would end every day frustrated with myself because I could never do enough to satisfy myself. I'd finish the day, and why didn't I get more done? I only have 23 check marks on my list. Why didn't I get 24 done? I'm not feeling as successful as I should. And when I shifted my mindset to all that's most important to me, if I can complete these 3 tasks today, I will be satisfied. Anything beyond that I complete on my other tasks list, they're bonus. So this is how I kind of keep myself from overextending and feeling like it's never enough. There's actually a daily win portion in my full focus planner. And that's always a great spot for me too, to force myself to celebrate the win and the thing that I was able to get done that day, and not just focus on the things that didn't get a check mark next to them. So what I'm saying here is, if you're overwhelmed by the list, I like to have a master list. I don't have everything on one list like my parents used to have with one list that they looked at for the day. I had a master list, and I only transfer over the things that I want to focus on that day. And that helps me to not look at the list and think I'm never going to get out from under this. Instead, I look at my list and I say, oh, this is totally feasible. So for example, I want to give you an example. Today, my big 3, number 1, I needed to record 2 podcast episodes today. Technically, I probably could have put that as number 1 and number 2, but I put record podcasts as one of my big 3. The second one is prepping for a client that I have in 2 business days. I'm doing a workshop, and I need to finish prepping for that and make sure all my materials are ready. And then the third one is someone is going to be renting my classroom this week, and I want to set up the classroom and get it ready in the layout that works for them, make sure everything's clean and organized and ready to go for them for this week. And so that is number 3. So I feel good if I get those 3 things complete. Anything above and beyond is a bonus. So just another idea. We are talking about identifying your core strengths and focusing on those and delegating other things. And we're talking about focusing on your big 3. Also, what I like to do is I like to insert those tasks into my calendar. So I already have standing appointments. Let's talk about Monday, for example. I already have standing appointments, and I know where those are in my calendar. I actually have an hour-by-hour view of my day for each day of the week, and this is a part of the full focus system as well. And when I go ahead and map out the appointments that I have for the day, I can see what slots of time I have left open between them. So if I'm looking at the available slots in between all my appointments and I see a total of 3 hours, total between all of those slots, I'm able to look at my big three and say, okay, given the amount of time I have, how much will each of these take? Where can I insert them directly into my calendar? So when I finish what I'm doing right now in my, standing appointment, I immediately jump into one of those tasks. I don't sit and stare at my list and spend half of the time that I have available to me trying to decide which thing to do. It's already there. It's already decided for me. So by inserting them directly into my calendar, record podcasts, I know where I'm doing that. I know where I'm doing my prep for my client. I know where I'm setting up the classroom for rental. I know I can fit it in. I can get it done. So just another idea of inserting it directly into your calendar based on the amount of time that those things will take. Again, I would insert those big three tasks, and anything else on the list is bonus. So if I happen to finish those tasks and I have time left over, still have admin time in between appointments, I would jump to, there's a secondary list that says other tasks. So I would go there. All of these things really help with that in-list list that most leaders I chat with talk about, because not only are you managing people potentially, and you have things that are going to come up throughout the day that you need to support them with, you still have your own responsibilities to take care of, and we need to make sure you have time set aside for those things. The next thing that comes up most often is everything seems equally important. I have this whole list of things to do. They're all urgent. I feel as if they all need to be done right now. How do I prioritize these tasks? And I swear by the Eisenhower Matrix. It's something that I learned a really long time ago. And once you've done it a few times, you don't even have to draw out a matrix. It just comes naturally. I actually, I label my tasks within my master list based on the Eisenhower Matrix. So if you've not heard of this before, this is a matrix that has 4 quadrants, and I'll make sure that there's a link posted so you can see a picture of it and really be able to visualize if you like a visual. You have 4 quadrants, and then up above and down to the left side, we have those areas labeled. Across the top, urgent and not urgent. And then down the left side, we have important and not important. So we are going to organize our task list based on urgency and importance. So what we do here is you look at kind of the intersection of the two. So the place where I would start, the first place I would look, is urgent and important. There is a box there. That is my box where I do it now. It's both urgent because I need to get to it right away. Maybe there's a deadline or an urgent client need. Something came up, whatever that need is, and it's important. So I am going to do those things now. So obviously those would jump to the top of my list. In my master list, I label those. I have a column to prioritize. I label them a 1. Okay? They are the right now things. You know right away what the right now things have to be. Usually it involves providing something to someone else. For me, I don't like holding people up from completing their tasks. So if they're waiting on something from me, those are the things that often jump to the top because I want to make sure I'm not holding up the process. So urgent and important, we do right away. Then if we look at things that are still important, but they're not urgent. So again, they're important, but they're not urgent. We don't have to do them right now. It's not an immediate need, an immediate deadline. These are the things where we can schedule a time to do them. In my master list, I label these a 2. So these are things that I know in advance that need to be completed. I happen to like to break down bigger tasks into smaller manageable chunks so I can schedule them out over time. So these are things that, I consider my day-to-day tasks that I can be more proactive in scheduling rather than reacting and having things come up that I need to do immediately. So those we decide where to put them. So the urgent and important quadrant 1, we do right away. The not urgent but important quadrant 2, we decide where to put them. Then the next quadrant, quadrant 3, is going to be the things that are urgent, but they're not important that you are the one that does them. It doesn't have to be you. It doesn't require your skill set, but they need to be done immediately. Delegate. Who can do it for you? So the perfect example of that is what I said earlier. When folks reach out to schedule something with me, to me, it's urgent. I like to have max 24-hour response time. I do not like to go longer than that, acknowledging receipt and taking action. So I consider that urgent if someone's asking for an appointment. But I can forward that email or copy Erica on that email and delegate that to her because I don't have to be the one that schedules it. It can be her. So it's urgent, but it's not necessarily important that I'm the one that does it. So again, that's quadrant 3 that I label actually in that section of my master list. Yes, I take everything to the extreme when it comes to organizing and the details, but I label who I'm delegating it to. So when it comes to the podcast, is it something Matthew's going to do? If it's something related to my CRM, is Mary Sue from Work Smarter Digital, is she helping me with it? Is something I can delegate to her? So thinking about who is going to be the support system in getting that thing completed, I like to map that out so I can see and follow up with people to make sure it is completed. And then finally, quadrant 4, we have our not urgent and not important. And you think about that for a second. What would be on my list that's not urgent and not important? Those are the things that we're going to delete, we're going to eliminate completely. And I kind of laugh about this one because I often get questions of, well, why would it be on the list? Well, if it's not important enough to write down on your list, and it's not urgent enough to write down on your list, then maybe it shouldn't be done in the first place. And a great example of this is scrolling through social media. Am I going to write in my planner, today I am going to scroll on social media for 1 hour? Absolutely not. It's not urgent. It's not important. It can be eliminated. It is the reason why I actually set social media limits on my phone. And when I hit the 15-minute mark, then it cuts off for the day. I don't need that time, so it can be eliminated. So just think about that and how much you value your time. It is really hard for me to understand and want to support someone with managing their time better. They say they don't have enough time in the day, but they're posting on social media constantly. They're responding. You just know that there's a lot of Netflix time. There's all these other things that they're doing, and they say they don't have enough time. I understand being able to pull yourself away and decompress a little bit, but you have to find a balance between the two. So those are the delete, number 4. So again, just to recap, the Eisenhower Matrix has 4 quadrants based on urgency and importance. The first quadrant you are going to do immediately. Those are the things that would make my big 3 list. And then quadrant 2, those are the things you are going to decide when you can schedule them for. Quadrant 3, you are going to delegate if you have someone to delegate them to, because it's not important that you are the one to do it, but those are urgent tasks. If you don't have someone to give it to, make sure that it makes it to your number 1 because you have to be the one to do it. And then finally, we're going to eliminate or delete those that are not urgent and not important. So that's the strategy that I kind of use to prioritize tasks on a weekly basis. Like I said, I do have a master list and I only pull over tasks as I want them in my planner so as to not get really overwhelmed. I personally like to set myself up for the entire week at once, and it might sound a little crazy, but I tend to have my big 3 picked well in advance. Sometimes I enter into the week and I will have my big 3 for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday already firm. I already know what's expected of myself to move forward. Now, people might say, well, what if something comes up that's more important? That's why I use my friction erasable pens, because I have the ability to go in and make that change if I need to. But as I enter into the week, I tend to know where my priorities lie. So that is how I prioritize tasks. Another issue that comes up is just the feeling that there's never enough time. I had said earlier, there are 24 hours in every day, so it's pretty predictable. You know what to expect, but there's just not enough time. I hear that all the time, right? I think that the more routines that we get in place, the more time we have available. And the reason I believe that is, I think this may be a silly example, but everybody can probably relate to it. Think about when you go to take a shower, for example. It's like your body just knows what to do. You kind of do everything in the same order every time. At least I do. Same order every time. I swear it takes the same exact amount of time, but I'm not thinking about any of it. It's just I go through the motions at this point. So it's a mindless task for me. But the more things that I can build into my day that are just natural and are routine for me, I don't have to question what to do next. It just happens. When my alarm goes off in the morning, I know that my first step is to go downstairs and to pour a drink and to go get my Bible for Bible study. And that routine for me, it's very predictable. And I know what to expect. So if I structure my day with consistent routines, I spend so much less time questioning where to go and what to do next. So just an idea of kind of planning out your day with really positive, good habits that feed you and fill your cup, that help you to get the things done that are important to you, that are in alignment with your goals, with your priorities, with your vision. The other thing is, in this idea, I had kind of mapped out prior to knowing the Full Focus Planner, but that's because I was a teacher, and being a teacher, you kind of have to map out your ideal day every day. You have to know what you're taking the students through every day, right? What you're teaching, when, how long you can spend on each concept. There's a lot of backwards planning. If we want to get this done in this amount of time, how long can we spend on each concept? Believe me, that comes in handy when I'm still leading workshops today. But what I found was having an ideal day structure going into every day also saved me a lot of frustration and in questioning where to go, what to do next, or how long I can spend on this and still get everything on the list done. So I do an ideal week. Yes, that's a part of the Full Focus system. I think it's one of the most important components, honestly, to sit down and map out, in my 24 hours, what do I need to be able to fit in? So it actually has, in the Full Focus system, every day of the week, Monday through Sunday. Theirs is from 5 a.m. to technically 9:30 p.m., which works well for me because I happen to get up at 5 and I happen to try and be in bed at 9 o'clock every night. So it's perfect. But literally time blocking in order to fit in the things that are most important to me, because I truly believe we make time for what's important to us if it is really important to me. Then I will stick it into my schedule if that spot is not already taken. So I map out and know how long I'm going to spend each day on clients, how long I need in administrative time, uninterrupted administrative time, in order to properly prepare for the clients. Because I do think that that's often forgotten. Just because I'm not working with a client doesn't mean it's free time. I actually require a lot of prep time to be adequately prepared for all of the sessions that I have. And obviously when I'm teaching workshops, preparing materials and slideshows and all of the content and curriculum that I'm building out, there's a lot of prep time. So I have in a given day how many hours of admin time I need. I have my meals built into my schedule. I have those daily routines already built in. And then I can easily see if I'm saying it's really important to me that I get 30 minutes of exercise, where does it fit? I need to be able to insert it in here, and I also need to be able to uphold that commitment. I need to be able to insert it into my schedule and see where it fits in. Because if I just save it for later and say, I will exercise if time permits, we all know that's not going to happen. We know how that goes. So I find an ideal week very helpful. And a lot of people say to me, well, I made this ideal week, and I find that there is no day that goes exactly as I have written out on my ideal week. Do you ever think that it will be exact? It's not going to be an exact science. It can't be. However, when I can easily get pulled off course in another direction, this gives me something to go back to. It pulls me back in to refocus, because I don't know about other people, but I feel like there are a lot of distractions out there constantly trying to pull me away. And I'm going to talk about distractions in a couple minutes. When I can pull myself back to my ideal week and say, okay, I know that I was supposed to be working on prepping for my clients for tomorrow, but this urgent need came up. I had to take this call, and it took 30 minutes of my admin time. What am I going to give up in the remainder of the day? What am I willing to give up in order to find the time to complete that task that was on here? And that's why I feel it's valuable, is it allows you to literally look at, okay, yes, something happened that changed my day, but now I have a choice. Which of these two things is more important? Am I going to ensure I'm properly prepared for my clients for tomorrow? Yes, that's going to be the thing that's most important over the other things. So I do have to give something up, but it allows you to consider, what are you giving up and what are you choosing to keep? So ideal weeks are very, very helpful. I would love to share mine with you. If you haven't seen it before, I have posted it on social media. I do tend to change it up each quarter, because as my goals change, the amount of time I need for certain things change. Last quarter, I set a very unreasonable expectation for myself, and I do that sometimes. Because I really, really, really wanted to practice my guitar every single day. And I didn't do it every single day. I did not uphold that commitment to myself because a lot of other things were coming up and I had to make a choice. And a lot of times that guitar became secondary. I did not love that, but it was a pattern that occurred. But I knew that going into this quarter and building my ideal week, it was not reasonable for me to expect that I was going to have time to practice every day. So I had to decide what was more reasonable and insert that into my ideal week. So we're constantly updating it and changing it. Again, a great reason to have a friction pen, which has been one of my best friends ever since I got my full focus planner. So that is a strategy that works for me, is planning your ideal week and then adhere to it as much as possible. Don't make excuses. We can all make excuses of reasons why we can't do the things that we said we were going to do for ourselves. But I encourage you, if you're writing it down on paper, it was obviously important enough to write down in your ideal week. So try and stick to it. Okay. The next one on my list, the most common concerns that folks bring up to me. I have a lot of procrastination. Procrastination goes on and derails. Even the most organized people can be procrastinators. I hear it all the time. I can procrastinate too. And I'm going to tell you what I do when I find myself procrastinating. The very first thing I do is I ask myself, why? Why am I avoiding this task? What is it about this thing that I do not like? And one of my things that I don't like is I don't like making phone calls. I've never liked making phone calls. being a planner and liking to have a structure, an idea of what I'm going to say and do. Phone calls, you are on the spot. You have to answer on the spot. It's a lot of pressure. I've never enjoyed them. I didn't even used to like ordering pizza. It was uncomfortable for me. So I've come a long way. But I can usually identify the reason why I'm putting something off. So if I have a phone call on my list and I keep pushing it back, I know that I need to call this person and check in. I miss them. I care about them. I want to know how they're doing. But I'm pushing it back. Well, what's the reason why? And is it really that big of a problem? Am I making a bigger deal out of it? Sometimes it's a really big project. People will push back, or it's a really big business decision and maybe there's some risk associated with it and I'm afraid to take the risk. Whatever it may be, I just like to stop and really analyze, why do I keep pushing this back? Sometimes what it is I'm overwhelmed by the size of the thing. And so my strategy when I'm procrastinating a bigger project or something that just seems sizable is I break it into manageable chunks, smaller pieces, and I spread those out across my week. So for example, when I said I use my Eisenhower Matrix, it's something that is not yet urgent because I haven't approached the deadline just yet, but it is important. I like to break it down and build it into my schedule and do a little bit towards it each day. So a good example of this could be my newsletter. My newsletter is a lot of work. A lot of thought goes into that. Thinking about the theme for it, pulling the pictures for it, writing the different columns within it. Am I going to highlight a nonprofit, pulling their information? There's so much that goes into a newsletter. And I get very overwhelmed by that task every single time. And so it can be the thing that I push and I push and I push. And then I'm finally like, well, yep, I'm coming up on the end of the quarter. I'm supposed to send this once a quarter. I need to get it done. And the only way that I ever get it done is if I break it down across a week. And I say, okay, day one, I am going to identify the theme of this quarter's newsletter. And I am going to make sure that Erica helps me pull the pictures that I'm going to use in the newsletter. Boom, day one. I feel good. At least I have a general direction I'm going in. And the thing that doesn't have to be me, I have support with. And then day two, okay, I have my theme. Today I'm going to write my introductory letter that goes on the first page of the newsletter. And then there's an in the news section. I'm going to identify what's in the news. Okay? Boom, that's day two, and I'm feeling really good about it. Day three, and I just break it down across the span of a week so that by the end of the week, the whole draft has been written, and on Friday, I can review it, I can feel good about it, and I can make sure I get it scheduled. So that's my thing. I push back. I know why I push back on it. It's just because of the overwhelm. But by breaking it down into manageable chunks, I feel good every single day that I kind of bite one of those little pieces off. And by the end of the week, I'm still getting it done on time. The other thing that I recommend when it comes to procrastination is if you know you're putting it off, do it first. Like if I have a whole list of things on my schedule, I literally choose the least desirable task and I complete it first. And I'll tell you why. And a lot of people call this eat the frog first. So do that thing you don't want to do first. And you probably know why you should. Think about how good it is going to feel to get that thing over with at the very beginning of your day. It's off of your plate. You feel successful and you don't have to worry about it the rest of the day. Whereas if you choose to wait because it's an undesirable task and you say, I'll do it later today. I don't feel like doing it right now. I'll do it later. After lunch. I'm sure I'll do it after lunch or later this afternoon. Well, by the end of the day. Well, now I'm really tired and I'm not at my best, so I probably shouldn't do it now. I'll just wait till tomorrow. We know that's what happens, and that's how we end up procrastinating. So do it first. Look at your list. What is the thing that I don't want to do at all? I'm going to do that first today and feel really successful. And I swear it energizes me for the rest of my day. I'm feeling really good after I do it. If you're a procrastinator, again, I say identify why you're avoiding the thing. If it's a really big thing, break it down into smaller things. And finally, do the least desirable one first and get it out of the way, or the one that will give you the most momentum first. Whatever is going to make you feel really good. Just something to reflect on. And then another area I tend to hear all the time is people are always interrupting me, interrupting my workflow. They're disrupting me. Whether you're working in an office and people are popping in for a conversation with you, and we hear about this open door policy, and people think that that means that you have to literally leave your door open full time to be inviting. That is not what that means. You can control some of these interruptions. It just takes being open and honest about your needs in order to complete your tasks, fulfill your responsibilities. It is okay to shut your door and have intense focus time, to set a timer for yourself. I like to work in 45-minute increments. That's about how long I can really focus on. That's why my client appointments are 45 minutes. We can really focus in on that period of time. Then I have a 15-minute window, recuperate, and then go to the next client appointment. But set that timer. Feel free to put something on the door that shows that you're really focused, and you'll open up that door when you are open to guests coming in and chatting with you. People will respect that. And maybe actually you'll set the example for some others, and others might decide to do it too. Okay, well, what if you actually don't work in an office with a bunch of people? Maybe you are sitting at home at your own dining room table and you are distracted because you know there's laundry to be done, or your phone is buzzing and you have constant notifications. I don't know if you're like me, but if your phone lights up, it's like you can't help but look at it. You have to know what's going on, and I tend to want to respond immediately. So what can you do to manage those interruptions? For me, during my workday, I know this probably frustrates many people, but I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. It doesn't light up. It doesn't vibrate. I have no idea what's going on my phone until I choose to take it off of Do Not Disturb, and I have a time that I want to intentionally check it and know what's going on. But up until that point, I have no idea what's going on my phone. Do I think about it? Honestly, I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't really think about it. I can make it to the end of the day sometimes and have like 48 text messages, and everybody wants me to respond immediately. But I was able to focus for the day and accomplish the things that were most important to me, and then I can choose to handle those things. Now, do I have exceptions to my Do Not Disturb? Yes. I have certain people in my life that, if I'm an emergency contact or I'm someone that's going to need to know if there's an emergency, I do have an exception to the rule where their calls will come through. Or if someone calls over 3 times in a row, it will come through. You can control those things. There are so many things you can control on your phones to really manage your time more effectively. So and manage interruptions. So think about if your phone is that interrupter for you, that big distraction. Just think about what things you can put in place to kind of set yourself up for success and make sure that you're not, constantly pulled, your attention's not constantly pulled to your phone. The other thing, it comes down to setting boundaries. And this one was really, really, really hard for me because I have always been a people pleaser. I don't want to disappoint anyone, ever, ever, ever disappoint someone. But without boundaries, then I find I never get my own stuff done. I end up doing everything for everyone else to keep everyone else happy and satisfied. And then I never made progress on my own things. And that can be extremely frustrating and discouraging to feel like you're never moving forward, right? You feel good because you're helping other people, but you still have to do your own stuff. So setting boundaries in a couple of different ways have been helpful to me. One, if I'm being asked to do something and it doesn't align with my priorities, I have to say no. And not everything aligns with my priorities at that time. So I've been saying no a lot more often, or I will not be able to do this thing unless I remove this other thing, and I'm not ready to remove that yet. So for example, I serve on a couple of boards. I was asked to be on another board. I know that I have to eliminate something else from my life before I can say yes to another board. And so I had to say, I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to wait and make sure that this is in alignment with what's important to me and I feel good about it, because I have to protect my time to make sure that I'm able to focus on the things that are important to me in order to reach my overarching goals for myself. So if there's something that's not in alignment with your priorities, or if you're working in a business, with a team, and someone keeps passing the baton to you and asking you to do things that aren't really your responsibility, it might be hard, but it's time to have a conversation about your inability to take on everybody else's stuff, because it's putting you in a place where maybe you're having to consistently stay late after hours to do your own tasks because you spent the entire day doing everything for everyone else. So those boundaries are hard, but it will feel much better once you get them in place. Also, you have to communicate your availability very clearly. And I think I mentioned on a previous episode, this has been a very, very, very hard one for me, because I spend a lot of time networking. I meet a lot of new people. I love spending time getting to know them one-on-one and learning ways I can support them. And one-to-ones are just an important part of a business owner's life. However, I cannot fill my entire day with one-to-ones. I can't. I will never achieve any of my goals. I will never be able to serve the clients that I have in front of me, and I won't be able to do that effectively. So I had to start limiting myself to the number of one-to-ones I can have in a given week, the number of networking events I can attend in a given week. I can't go every night to a networking event anymore. I can't. I have to limit the number of clients I can see in a day. I have to, limit so many different things and set those clear boundaries and then communicate them to other people. And often it is a terrible feeling, I have to admit, and I tell Erica this all the time. I feel awfully when someone says, "Hey, I want to have lunch with you." I want to have lunch with you too. I really do. But my next available lunch is blank, and I feel awful about that, but I can't create more time. There are certain days that I can't have lunch with another person because I have an appointment right before it, I have an appointment right after it, and I can't squeeze anything in between. I need to be able to get up, walk around, eat real quick, and get back to work. And there are plenty of days where I just already have a lunch scheduled. Or the one-to-one, where I want to have a one-to-one with you. I do. I value your friendship. I value our relationship. But to have to communicate that the next available slot is 4 months out, I feel that I'm really disappointing people. I feel like I'm making them feel like they're not important to me, and that is not the case at all. And I really hope that I can convey that I communicate that effectively. I really hope so. If you're listening to this and you really wanted a one-to-one with me, and I said I can't do it until blank, or Erica said that, it's because I literally can't fit anything else into my day, and I have to protect my time. I allow myself one relationship building appointment per day. One. And I think that that's actually more than a lot of people do. So I will continue to communicate that availability clearly and hopefully convey that I value the relationships. But let me just tell you how much better it feels to be able to have my time in the evenings to just sit on the couch and, watch a TV show. I used to sit on the couch and work because I'd spend my whole day having one-to-ones and building relationships, and then I'd have to work in the evenings. I don't do that anymore because I learned to set effective boundaries and actually hold them. I didn't say it was easy, but I do. So that is kind of the key concerns that come up when folks come to me about time management problems. Again, it comes down to my to-do list is overwhelming. It's just never ending. I don't know how to overcome that. I don't know how to prioritize my day effectively. Maybe everything seems equally important. How can I create more time when it doesn't exist? By the way, I have discovered, and this is why I entitled this episode Mastering Your Minutes. I've come a long way in using a minute. I used to have this really weird mindset of, I only have 10 minutes before my next appointment, so I'm not really going to be able to get much done. So I'll just scroll on my phone. 10 minutes is a lot of time. I can get a lot done in 10 minutes. I can get a lot done in 60 seconds. I will literally look at the clock and I'll be like, oh, I have a full minute? I can do a lot. And I will go do a lot in that minute. And I just find that if you truly take time to master those minutes and take advantage of every moment that you have during your workday, that frees you up to have more time to do the things that you love with the people that you love, and focus on other areas of life as well. So just something to think about. I hope that you found some value in at least one of the things that you heard today. Maybe you're experiencing one of these issues. I would love to hear what you might try implementing. My branching out challenge for this week is obviously, I want you to think about how you're spending your time and what is that one thing that you can do to be just a little bit more intentional with the use of your time. I definitely feel like I've grown a lot in this over the years. Some of it is due to necessity. Some of it is due to the fact that, with my health complications and realizing that if I overextended myself, that if I didn't have my health, I didn't have anything. And some of it's tools. My full focus planner, it really allowed me to merge my personal and professional life into one and be able to feel as if I am kind of conquering every day and making the most of it. So that's my call to action for you for this week, is just make a decision about what you could do more effectively, whether it's creating more of a clear boundary and saying, I'm sorry, I can't do that, or creating a maximum amount of time that you feel is appropriate to spend on a certain thing each day or each week. Whether it is eating the frog first and doing the thing that you don't enjoy first thing in the day, creating an ideal week. Let me know if you need any tools or resources, or if you have any questions about the Full Focus system. I am a Full Focus certified pro, so I am able to teach you these components. I am able to support you with the implementation with this tool. I really enjoy doing that. It's very rewarding for me to see people transform the way that they're using their time. And there's so many other components I didn't even touch on. Also, if you found value in this episode today, please share it, follow, and subscribe. I would love for you to get notifications every single time an episode comes out. If you haven't already subscribed, they do come out every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and Spotify, and then all other platforms on Saturday. And I would love to hear if there are any topics that you specifically would like me to unpack, any questions that you have based on something that I share, submit them. I would love to answer your questions. Visit the website at branchingoutpodcast.com. There are some resources on there, ways you can get a little more involved and get updates when new things are coming out. That's it for today. I hope that this was helpful in thinking about no matter where you are in your leadership journey, remember that you are a leader because you are influencing lives no matter how many interactions you're having in a day. If you are having any interaction with another human being, you have the ability to influence them. And it does require us being intentional with our time. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and until next time, keep branching out.